Test one, two. Test one, two.
director for Visit Casper, and she's here tonight to give you that that introduction and brief opportunity to get to know our new director. And so with that, Nat, do you want to come on up and introduce yourself?
Oh, I guess I don't bring everything here. Thanks so much for letting me be here, everyone. I am brand spanking new here in the community. I've been here about 2 weeks. You, holiday open house, good to see you. I guess I will just tell you a little bit about myself. I've been running tourism organizations, also known as CVBs or destination organizations, destination marketing or management organizations for, just shy of 14 years. Previous to that, I've also been in the business of running nonprofit economic development types of organizations, downtown associations, chambers, things like that. I also did a stint for a few years in the newspaper industry, like during the recession, like that was fun. I don't know what got a hold of me during that time, but I do bring, I think, a pretty diverse perspective to Visit Casper. I love Casper. I've wanted to live here, I don't know, my entire life. My grandparents and their parents homesteaded just south of Casper, so we grew up coming through here. Yes, I know about the weather, I know about the wind, I know about the cold, I know how to shop, I can layer, I'm okay. It's all good. So I just wanted to be here, give you an opportunity to ask me any questions that you might have about, whether it's about leadership style or what my approach will be to the position. Any questions or concerns that you have, and just make sure that you know that I'm a resource. Our team is a resource for you, and I'm really excited to partner with all of our fine organizations. I see the Fort Wyoming Center and my new twin back there who started about the same time as me. I'm just very excited to be working with everyone and making sure that our partnerships continue.
Do we have any questions, comments? Oh, Pat.
Just a quick one. Thank you, Mayor. So I noticed the invitation to the tourism banquet gala next week.
Yes.
I don't know if anybody's got questions about that.
So I did shoot out a quick invitation to all of our jurisdictional representatives. Our team will be at the Governor's Tourism Conference next week. There is a reception at the end of that where the big YO Tourism Award will be given out. It's just a great time, I think, for everybody to connect and have a few moments to talk about individual priorities and making sure that we are aligned in both what your goals are and how we are executing tactically. So would love to see some of you there if you can. If you cannot, I certainly understand, but please do reach out because I'm literally 2 blocks away.
We are excited to have you, so thank you and welcome to Casper.
Thank you.
So looking forward to working with Visit Casper again, and I think Pat's on your board now.
Yes.
Me too.
Yes. I saw that, and we are
That was
all,
today.
we are all thrilled. So
Thank you for being here and welcome to Casper. And if you ever need anything from us, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much.
thank
Good to
you.
meet you.
Have a good meeting.
Now another introduction, Mr. City Manager, Fort Wyoming Center.
Yeah, we, as you have already heard, we have a new general manager at the Fort Wyoming Center as well. And so if it pleases the council, I'd like to invite Zulima and Jake up and make that introduction.
Morning, Mayor Council. I did want to just preface a quick introductory period here with recognition and an introduction of Amanda Flanagan in case you all have not met Amanda. She has been interim general manager for the Fort Wyoming Center since Kirk decided to leave us right before October, which it was like trial by fire. First week was event packed, and her and other staff at the Fort Wyoming Center just really shined. Those events went off without a hitch, and she's been a great interim. She's been a great partner. We've continued to work very closely in this interim period, and so we just want to recognize her as one of the up-and-coming leaders at the Fort Wyoming Center, currently the director of booking, but soon likely to be promoted to another leadership position. And so together, this is a very dynamic team that we're excited to have at the Fort Wyoming Center. This is Jake Crum. He is our new general manager, and I will give him introduce himself and take any questions that you have.
Everyone. I'm very happy to be here. So I've been involved in the live event or production and venue management industry for over 20 years, pretty much since I left high school. So I used to work for a former iteration of OVG, Global Spectrum and Spectra, a number of years ago. And so coming back to the company is kind of like homecoming for me. It's beautiful here in Casper. I'm very excited to be here. And I'm used to the cold because I'm originally from New Hampshire, but the wind is something new to me. But other than that, thank you all very much for welcoming in here, and please bear with me as I get settled and get to recognize and remember everybody's names. That's the hardest part for me.
Any questions, comments?
Welcome aboard.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Welcome. Again, as I had mentioned,
Nail it.
if you guys need anything, please let us know. Okay.
Definitely will do.
Look forward to talking with you guys in the future.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Saw you on the news the other day. Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Julie. Okay, Mr. City Manager, let's go ahead and do the tax project update.
Absolutely. This really has more of a dual purpose in bringing this up tonight. Number one, certainly we want to give you an update as to where the various projects are and the progress we're making and that kind of thing. A lot of which you saw in your memo, of course. But the other thing is we thought it would be most prudent from a financial and accounting standpoint to open up a unique fund as it relates to the receipts that this program, of course, will generate over the next year to year and a half to maybe even 2 years. So from that standpoint, we want to be sure that council is aware that that's the direction we'd like to go, because of course it takes your blessing in order to open a fund of this nature. And again, we think it probably is the most prudent thing to do, given the unique nature of these dollars that we've been authorized to collect. And so if you have questions along those lines, Jill is here tonight to walk us through that if you need those kinds of mechanical types of questions answered. As it pertains to the projects themselves and where they are at, Tom is working point on a lot of these projects. We also have some other material experts as well to address any questions that you might have and walk through any of that detail if you'd like. So with that, if I could turn some time over to Tom to give us sort of a broad stroke with regard to where we're at on these projects, that would be helpful.
Awesome. Great. Tom?
Excuse me. Mayor, members of the council, just to step through the projects, I'm going to start with the two that are a little more active. The first one is the Metro Animal Shelter. And we received proposals. They were all due last Friday. We received a total of 7 proposals from architects, both in-state and a couple of them out of state, and a lot of good information. And we'll be shortlisting an architect, shortlisting 3, maybe 4 firms to interview for that. Those interviews will probably be maybe late next week, probably the week after that. And then we anticipate at the second meeting in February that we would bring forward a contract for the selected architect for that. So the plan from there is to dive right into schematic design, to work really closely. We've got a good concept put together with the help of Animal Arts, and to take that concept and then put it into a schematic design and a site plan for the facility. And then within a month or a month and a half, put out an RFP for construction managers at risk. And we believe the CMAR process is the most efficient and aggressive way to do this. And then ultimately, get this project built in mid to late 2026. So again, fairly aggressive schedule. Things are moving ahead. The police department and everybody at Metro have been very helpful in helping us move that along. Excited about the proposal process. On the fire station, we're putting our foot on the gas for the RFP for the architect, even though we don't necessarily have a site selected. Our direction to them has been, hey, let's get an architect on board. So when that site is selected, and possibly help us in the site selection with a conceptual site plan. For that project, we're leaning more towards conventional design bid build. That's because it's a very well-defined scope. We've built 4 of them already, pretty straightforward design. So try and put together a design for that project. And again, with us only having the funding for land acquisition and architecture, you know, we didn't want to bring a CMAR on board if we weren't sure when the funding was going to be available. So again, moving ahead aggressively, hoping to have, you know, land acquisition here and site selected within the next 4 to 6 months. So that project's moving ahead. On the Washington Park Band Shelter, again, that project we're delayed because we're using some of that money as leverage for a grant, which will complete the second phase of improvement at Washington Park. So we're kind of holding off on that project because again, we're leveraging it for some grant funding for Washington Park. The 911 dispatch center, the chief and his group have put together, you know, specifications for the equipment we need. And again, we're kind of hitting the pause button on that until we have a more defined goal for when that building is going to be completed. The last thing we want to do is bring a bunch of radios and equipment and computers in here and then have to store them and move them 2 or 3 times. The objective there is to put together a procurement package that dovetails together with the completion of the building. So we procure the equipment, have it delivered, and have it delivered, you know, to the new police station and not to some intermediate site. So that's the status of the 4 projects. And again, we're moving ahead as aggressively as we can on those 2 projects where we have a well-defined scope and nothing in our way, and the other 2 just being very strategic about how we proceed with those projects.
Thanks, Tom. Does anybody have questions? They have projects or anything? Yeah, Kyle.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Tom, for that update on everything. I do have a question, probably better for Jill, though. Are we doing Tom first and then Jill?
Maybe that's a good idea. Maybe we do all the operational
Yeah, so
questions and then go to.
we'll wait, see
fiscal.
if anybody has any,
Questions for you?
for Tom
Thank you for the
first.
update.
and then we'll come over here and then he'll get
Got
to you. Nobody else? Okay, great. Jill, you want to come on up? All right.
Mayor, councilors. I'm here to answer questions, so what can I do?
Does anybody have any questions? Oh, Kyle.
Thanks, Jill. I've had a few constituents ask me how the city is going to monitor and provide oversight for these accounts, you know, to make sure that they're being spent exclusively on these projects. Could you tell me, what do you expect in the way of, you know, updates to council? Will it be tracked like our 1 cent, where we get kind of a monthly report in our information packet showing us where we're at? Do you have a different kind of method in mind? Just looking for an update on how we keep track as the money comes in, how we keep track of it coming in, and then how we keep track of it going out. What does that look like? Thank you.
Great question, Mayor, councilors. So that is really the whole reason behind setting up this new fund. So the fund will segregate all of these funds coming in. They won't be able to go into the general fund or anywhere else. It will specifically go into, it's going to be Fund 160, and it will be the 6 cent fund. So within that fund, then we will go ahead and structure the fund so that each project then has its own separate area as well. So we're keeping track of the money coming in. We're keeping track of the projects with the money going out. Within each project, we also have the ability to budget. So we would budget the revenue coming in, being whatever we have said we are going to collect. So that will be your budget, and then your offset will be your expense, which is the money going out. So we have a really good way to structure how we keep track of this funding. Then as far as reporting, we are happy to provide whatever reporting you'd like. We have a monthly report, which we provide to everybody. It's actually out on the website. And you would just look for the 6 cent fund, and it will give you how much money we've collected and how much money we've spent. So again, I think it's very transparent. And if it's not something that you like in that particular way, we can certainly look at other ways to report to council.
No, I mean, similar to the 5th sent just a monthly report in our information packet to tell us where we're at with revenue generation and expenses. I think that would be fine for me at least.
Question. The questions? Yeah.
So within the fund, will you be able to track individual projects in the fund?
Mayor, Counselor, we can do that. So we will set up each of the 4 projects within the special fund. The revenue is typically not designated to the projects because it just all comes in, and then we actually allocate it through the project structure to be able to make sure that we have what the budget is for each project.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, just to be a little more emphatic, I know that many of you are getting the accusation that the dollars will come in and then they'll be siphoned off to a whole bunch of different directions and that sort of thing. The thing I like about setting up exclusive funds for these types of efforts is not only for the ability to present financial data that indicates where all the money has been and so on, but from my standpoint, it's the most transparent way of communicating to the public exactly where the dollars came in, when they came in, and how much, and where they went. Transparency, in my estimation, is huge in this regard, and it always is important to us, particularly when it comes to reporting to the public and saying exactly what it is that we said we would do. And that's what this effort is all about. We don't have the authority or the flexibility to go out and buy police cars, for example, with these dollars, or fire trucks, or work on the rec center or whatever, or allocate to projects that didn't get funded or whatever. Again, I'm being purposely emphatic to really hammer home the point that we've got real specific direction and we really don't have the opportunity to go anywhere else with that money.
Questions for Carter? Yeah, go ahead, Pat.
If there were leftover funds on each one, like let's say Metro, we only spend 6.9. My understanding too, though, with that project, it wasn't just for the new one. We could do some rehab on the old one, maybe not to the extent for within the guidelines of what got passed. But between those two, the new bill plus rehab, and there's money left over, is there a way for us to segregate perpetual funds or maintenance dollars for that project only?
Mr. Mayor, Counselor, thank you for that question. The advocacy that I would bring to this group, should we have the blessed fortune of coming under budget or under what has been allocated by the voters, would be that I would say, let's dedicate that balance of funds for exactly what you're describing, sort of a perpetual care type effort that would allow for the long-term maintenance of the building. Now, granted, if it's $100,000 versus $1 million, obviously we've got a lot more opportunity to do that over time and, over the long haul. But yes, my advocacy would be that we put those funds back into the project somehow, and certainly a long-term perpetual care type effort, in my estimation, is a real good use of those dollars.
Thank you.
Anybody else have questions for Carter and or Jill? Great. Thank you, Jill. Appreciate it. So Carter, you need a thumbs up from us to move forward with this fund today. Is that my understanding?
If everybody's on board, that certainly would be real helpful. If there's another direction council would like us to go, that's exactly why we had this conversation.
It's Carter. I'm sorry.
Carter.
Is Carter right? Is everybody okay with? You are always right.
In case there's any doubt.
Nice to hear.
Is everybody okay with moving forward with this fund?
That's the best way to do it.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay, I know we have an agenda review, and I know Pat has something that he did want to go over, but I'll start with the city manager about the agenda review.
Well, we do have one more item, if I may.
Oh,
Mr.
Whitewater.
Mayor.
Oh my gosh. I got
Yeah.
myself ahead of time.
That's okay.
Sorry, I was looking at the
Okay.
clock. My bad.
We'll,
Wastewater.
we'll try to make it as brief as possible. Certainly though, if we
Okay.
need more conversation on this topic, we can most definitely come back and address this again. We're at the point, however, where we do need to make some substantial decisions about capital investment into the wastewater treatment plant. During the rate hearings and work sessions, we let you know that this was likely going to be a lift that we need to make sooner than later. I think, and Tom certainly agrees along with Krista, that taking the time to put together a sort of a master plan, if you will, to help us prioritize those capital investments is a really critical step we should take right now. We initially thought that we'd be able to come back to you during the capital planning portion of this year, which is typically around March and April. But frankly, we'd like to get ahead of it a little faster than normal so that we can start going through that bid process earlier and start getting some work done during the spring, summer timeframe versus summer, fall, winter timeframe that waiting would typically require. The problem is, of course, that this is not cheap. This is going to be about $400,000 that we would suggest be taken from the fund balance of the wastewater treatment plant to make it happen sooner than later. And of course, that entails a budget amendment and so on that would be subsequent. Tom is here to answer any of those questions that you might have to help you feel comfortable moving in this direction. If you'd like more time, of course, we can come back and address this again in the next meeting. So whatever you'd like to do.
So I'm wondering, Council, you guys can push back on me. I'm wondering, we have about 4 minutes left. I don't know if I want to talk about it in 4 minutes. Something like this. Is everybody okay, amenable with that? We can talk about, are you guys on a pretty strict timetable with this card?
I would say if we could come back next week, we probably aren't losing too much hay, as it were, that we'd like to make with this project.
Is Council okay with that? If we wait till next week so we can have more of a conversation and ask Tom some questions and not feel rushed? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Appreciate it. Now on to the agenda review. I know Pat has something about consent, but I'll start with you, Carter, and then we can go forward.
Actually, I don't have much to bring up in this portion of the agenda, so questions would be very welcome.
Okay, Pat, did you want to talk about your consent question?
Yeah, on page 4 under, I think it's consent, but item 3, authorizing a site with Selco partnership. How do you congratulate staff for, it looked like a remarkable deal to me for the city. And so I didn't know how you applaud those efforts.
Oh, great. Okay, I see.
You know, if it's on consent or minute or consent. And then number 6, authorizing the lease to the Spuds. I don't want to pull that from the agenda, but I think it's too late for that. But did the 5, I think it's 5 or 10% of the gross, it looked like 5. Yeah, on concessions is what it looked like, not on ticket sales. But we're responsible for utilities, upkeep on the, you know, the ball field, in the water and all of that. You know, for $200 a month, seems like a
Heck of a deal.
yeah.
Zulema is the broker of this deal. Could we have her address that real quick?
Absolutely.
Mayor?
Yep.
Councilor, great question. We actually split our partnership with the Sled field use and then a separate lease with concessions. This particular lease deals only with the concessions, so the revenue generated from this rental space and then the sales from concessions, including all beverage sales. Of course, they have a special liquor license to serve that facility. So then proceeds from the field lease are in this.
Okay.
It just comes when.
When will we see that one?
So that contract actually came last year and it has a 3-year term. So actually this concession lease agreement, the date was intentionally set up to where it expires at the same time as the lease for the field.
Okay.
So we won't see another field lease unless we want to significantly change the terms prior to its set expiration date, which I believe is May of 27.
Okay. And then last question. So if we get a very large convention, they want to do an outdoor event at the field, do the proceeds from that lease out, sublease, go to the city or to the Spuds?
Mayor, Councilor, so the leases are non-exclusive, which gives the city the right to rent the facility out for any other purpose that we have. And so we would receive those proceeds directly. They are actually not allowed to subcontract without our specific permission. And at that time, we would negotiate any terms associated.
Thank you.
But likely, we would take the lead on renting that facility out and work out the arrangements of any revenue we would get from that rental separately.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lehman. Carter, do you have something?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, to answer Councilor Sweeney's very first question, it'd probably be most appropriate during the roundtable portion to address the virtues of that cell lease that you mentioned earlier, which I appreciate that acknowledgement in advance. Secondly, just to give you a real quick heads up, the minute action item pertaining to the establishment of that fund, you'll see and probably have seen in the formal agenda for tonight in a minute action fashion. So just to make sure you were aware of that if you didn't catch it already. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Anybody else have anything?